Dear Redditors, what was your scariest childhood experience? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. About in 2013-14 school year, it was a normal October day. I was walking to my locker, then all of a sudden you hear bang bang. There were about 100 kids in the halls, so we ran. Screams echoing through the halls, papers and books were everywhere. I got into a classroom and hid. It was about 30 minutes and we evacuated the school. Most traumatizing experience I've had. What was the bang? When I was little, I remembered dreams where my hands would be huge or my body was all out of proportion. Time was slow. I've heard it called Alice in Wonderland syndrome, and it was both exceedingly trippy and fucking frightening. I guess kids get this sometimes, but it was very realistic and very scary. Back in 2005, when I turned 11 that summer, me, my cousin, and uncle were sitting in my computer room. In the hallway, we all saw a figure move past and knock over the vacuum. We searched the whole house and found nothing. Not even the AC could knock over the vacuum. It was standing upright. My bedroom was the only room upstairs. It was a conversion of half the attic. In the closet, there was a 3x6 foot drywall board tacked to opening to the attic on the other end of the house. One night, a bird flew into a piece of the drywall and it fell over, hit the closet door, and the door swung open. It scared 11-year-old me so bad that I took 2 stops on the stairs and jumped the rest of the stairs, twisting my ankle when I landed and getting several bruises when I hit the wall at the bottom of the stairs. I was still able to run to my parents' bedroom screaming at the top of my lungs. That was about 49 years ago, and I still remember it like it was yesterday. I was a small child with a large bed. It was not uncommon for me to turn 180 degrees whilst asleep, so I was facing the bottom. I also had tucked in bedsheets, so I would wake up and, for a split second, think I'd be sealed up alive. 0 out of 10. Would not recommend. Went on a trip with my class back in elementary school, 3rd or 4th grade. In the nights, I saw a laser pointer in our room, but didn't say anything. Nothing happened that week. We went back home and everything was fine. Fast forward a week, and a little boy got abducted from the room we were in. Rest in peace him. We dodged a big bullet. I used to have these very vivid nightmares often. I'd be visiting a version of the 100-acre woods with my family that was a woodsy theme park. At the front gate, there was the statue of a realistic Pooh bear with a video return next to it. I'd always be returning a Winnie the Pooh movie my family rented the day before, after my family took a while to convince me that I would be fine. Upon putting the video in the chute for the movie drop, the statue's eyes would glow red as the head slowly turned towards me, mouth agape, and feverishly drooling in excitement and tell me, "You're too late." Before I could react, I would feel its claws tearing at my face. That's when it would dawn on me that it was just trying to incapacitate me enough to eat me alive. No matter what I did, or how much I begged my family to just leave the movie next to the statue and leave, I always had to be the one to put it in. I could change everything else about the dream, but the end. I remember one specific time I woke up leaving the video, just about to fall into the drop box. A stiff breeze is all it would take to drop in. The very next night, I had the nightmare again, only there was a second videotape in the bear's mouth. As I approached, I could see a date written on some masking tape on the guard panel of the VHS. It was the day before his date. I didn't need to put the movie back that time. The bear just came to life, crushing the VHS in its mouth, then taunting me and telling me that I was going to have to pay for stealing the second movie. It took its time that night, and the nightmare seemed to go on forever. Just a sadistic bear in a red shirt toying with its cornered prey as my family stood by smiling. I couldn't watch Winnie the Pooh movies for a decade after the nightmare started. They only stopped when I managed to change the statue to Tigger. I was walking with a friend through a desert area behind his house. He lived in a place where houses were very spread out. Most of the land was what one might call high desert, basically sage bushes and pinon juniper trees. We were a good ways from his house when we came across the handles of a plastic shopping bag sticking out of the ground. Curious, I pulled. There was a shoebox buried there. The bag was sticking out. Inside the bag was the head of a mid-sized dog, decayed, maggot-ridden, stinking, fetid. The eye had a green pallor to it, and clumps of hair had begun to fall off, revealing slimy bone underneath. Needless to say, we noped the fuck out of there. Never went walking that way again. Back in the 1980s, a boombox was built in cassette deck was kind of high-tech. My parents had just bought one and I was enjoying the admittedly simple amusement of recording goofy stuff and playing it back. One day I was upstairs fooling around with it and my mom was downstairs. I left the unit alone to do something in another part of the house, and when I came back, I realized I'd left the recorder on. I stopped the tape and rewound it a bit, curious about whether it had recorded anything. It was quiet for a moment or two, then I heard these weird, stuttery, choking noises, and there was a harsh voice calling my name in a loud and insistent way. It freaked me out so bad I practically dove down the stairs. From when I was about 7 to 11, every night I would have a reoccurring dream that involved a ghost-like elderly man dying in a fire in my house. He would scream and beg for me to help him, but I couldn't. This dream was so vivid, it was almost real for me. I would tell my mom every morning afterwards. I would go without sleep for weeks due to stress, fear of having the dream and waking up in a cold sweat and being too scared to go back to sleep again. When the dreams finally stopped, life improved for me, and thank goodness. I've never had it since I was 11. It was a terrifying dream. Well, when I was about 10, I woke up in a hospital bed in the middle of the night. There were tons of wires coming out of me, so I freaked out and started screaming and pulling them out. About 8 or 9 doctors came in and told me to calm down, but it was so terrifying. Turns out I was hit by a car at an annual 4th of July fireworks show. I was about 11, and my family went out to a pizza place the night of my mom's nursing school graduation. I ended up getting stuck at the very end of the table and didn't really communicate with anyone else there. When the pizza came, it was really hot, and the cheese was falling everywhere. I tilted a slice up to my mouth, and the entire slice's cheese slipped off and into my throat. It got lodged in there and was burning my throat. I was choking, and I couldn't swallow, even with water. The only thing I could do was try to pull it out through my mouth, but it kept breaking off in tiny pieces when I tried to grab it, so this wasn't working at all. No one at the other end of the table even noticed, and I was losing any air I had left. Finally, I pulled enough through my mouth so that I could swallow the rest. I knew I was seconds away from passing out. I never tilt my pizza like that anymore. I've nearly drowned, nearly been hit by a car, and came within a few feet of falling to my death. But the scariest thing about my childhood that I remember was the fucking vivid nightmares I had when I was 10. I don't know why I had so many at so young an age. I still remember a lot of them. Do tell. It was a Thursday or something, and I was 10. My entire family was asleep. As it was 1 or 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of my small white dog yapping at something that I assumed was a cat outside prancing around. Eventually, after this dog continues yapping for 10 minutes, I decide to check out what it is. As I open my bedroom door to go downstairs, I see my father is opening his bedroom door to investigate the same thing. We head downstairs to check out the ruckus. The dog is staring intently at something at the door and barking loudly. My father glances out the window and kind of stops in his tracks. He looks back at me and tells me it's the police. I check it out as well, and police may have been an understatement. It was a guy decked out in SWAT gear, mask on, carrying a massive machine gun. Being an avid Counter-Strike player, I liken the gun to an M4, but who knows what it actually was. Anyway, he yells at us through the window to let him in. My father first phones the police and makes sure it is them and not just some crazy gun-wielding maniac. It was the police, and we let them in. Yes, them. There were more than one. 5 guys dressed in similar garb come storming into my house, all with guns, and at this point, my entire family is downstairs in front of the door, albeit dazed. I swear one of them did some sort of combat role on my lawn. So apparently our neighbor to the southeast had threatened to bomb a school earlier and had the possibility of having a hostage in his house. So the SWAT team needed to use our house for the night as like a stakeout spot. We had to leave and head to the closest hotel, and I'm fairly sure the SWAT team got their boot mud on my brother's bed. Also, the neighbor never ended up coming home, so kind of an anticlimactic ending. But I didn't have to go to school the next day. 3-day weekend. Almost drowning when I was 3. I remember floating out in a river thinking, I'm going to die. Then going under and everything going black. All of a sudden, I'm out of the water and my mom is running towards me. She didn't even realize I was missing because she was too busy stopping a drug-fucked friend from swimming with her 2-year-old. My grandma and grandpa raised me. We went on trips often, and I got to see a lot of America because of them. On one particular trip, we were coming back from Washington, D.C., and we stopped at a rest stop and just had the windows and doors of the camper open. We were eating lunch and decided to take our pet poodle, he was a mini poodle, out to go to the bathroom. I was around 8 years old, and my grandma and grandpa told me to stay where they could see me, so I did. I started to walk over to the picnic area and explore, and this man approached me and asked me what my name was. He was nervous acting, always looking around. Being 8, I didn't think much of this, but I just said the first name that came to my mind, which for some reason was not my name. I kept walking the whole time as I got a bad vibe from the guy. He just kept walking and trying to get closer to me. He asked me what my dog's name was, and I told him Killer. My poodle's name was Pepe. This man got a bit upset, obviously knowing I was lying, and asked me if I wanted to walk with him to get some water for my dog. I didn't know what to do, so my 8-year-old self was panicking inside. The only thing I thought to do so I would be safe was to walk over and sit with a family that was eating at a picnic table. I literally just walked right up to them and sat down with them. They looked at me funny, but when the guy took off running, they knew something was up. My grandpa immediately yelled for me to get my ass back to the camper. Luckily, nothing happened, but it definitely could have. To this day, I believe if that family would not have been there, that man would have snatched me up and I would have been gone. Now, anytime I hear about a kid disappearing from a rest area, I cringe, not only because it's a horrible thing, but because I know that I quite possibly could have been that kid. Scariest childhood experience.